And I went over there by myself without my wife for the first couple of weeks. So it was like I got dropped in a new place on the other side of the world. 12-hour difference. I'm looking around like, what is going on? Where am I? I
Yeah.
was
What is good, everybody? Nathan Lombardi here with Lambo Media, joined by yet another very, very special guest, Xavier Scruggs. He previously played in both the MLB as well as the KBO, and currently owns his own company called Extraordinary Athletes. We'll get into some of that stuff a little bit later. But before we get into that type of stuff, I just want to know, Xavier, first and foremost, man, how are you and the family doing during these really past few months?
Yeah, appreciate you having me on here first and foremost. But thank you. Yeah, me and the family are doing very well. Luckily, it's a time when none of us have really been seriously affected by anything that's been going on. But
Good.
really, just it's a good time for us as the family just to, get closer. And we're not able to do as much as we want, but at the same time, we're able to, really build a bond within our family being at home. So it's been good. We're thankful.
Right. And let's kick it off by talking about your minor league career first. You played a whole 9 seasons in minor league baseball, just under 1,000 games. What would you say was your biggest takeaway from minor league baseball?
Yeah, biggest takeaway from minor league baseball is the grind. I mean, just like any other career, is you're gonna have to put your time in, you're gonna have to put the effort in, and it's not always gonna be pretty. So that's
Yeah.
that's something I really took away from the minor leagues is if you want something bad enough, you're gonna put in the time, effort, and that grind to go get it, no matter how long you're there. I was in the minor leagues for 7 years before I even got my first call up. So it's a really testing. It's a testing of your faith, testing of your perseverance, and but it's just like anything. You got to go hard and go get what you want. So that's what I took away from the minor leagues most.
Yeah, most definitely. And just relating to that grind part of things, you always hear a whole bunch of minor league players with minor league experience expressed how much resiliency that you need throughout your minor league career to eventually make it to the big leagues if that's your end goal. Could you attest to that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's basically what it's all about. It's like, but at the same time, you have to remember that your end goal isn't just the major leagues. Your end
Yeah.
goal is to be a great player in the major
Right.
leagues.
Yeah.
So it's more about building yourself day by day. It's almost like if you don't forget that you're in the minor leagues, and you just really focus on, okay, this is what I need to take care of to get better. So when I have that position to be in the big leagues, that I produce at a high level or at a consistent level. So it's almost a testing of your mindset more than anything, because if you're not prepared to be, the best player that you can be once you get to the level where you want to be,
Yeah.
then you're going to really run into trouble. So, just like most of those players say, it is a huge test, mentally, physically, and it can be draining, but it can be all worth it in the end.
Yeah, and now let's transition into your MLB career. How did you initially find out that you had been called up by the St. Louis Cardinals back in 2014?
Yeah, I initially got called up. We were in the playoffs. I was in Omaha, with the Memphis Redbirds. We were playing the Omaha team, the AAA team for the Kansas City Royals.
Okay.
We had just lost the first playoff game. The guys were kind of down in the dugout or down in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
And then my manager calls me into his office, and I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to expect. I already thought that my chances of getting called up had kind of passed,
Yeah.
once the season first ended and some guys had got called up. So he pulled me into the office. His name Pop Warner. He's the third base coach for them now. Just said, "Hey X, you're going to Milwaukee tomorrow." And I was like, "Milwaukee? What's going
Yeah.
on there?" And he was like, "That's how out of sight, out of mind the major leagues were at that time for me." Of course, I was, working to get there, but I didn't think it was going to happen right at that time. So when he told me that, I was juiced. Naturally,
Yeah.
called the parents, called my wife now, but was my girlfriend at the time. And tried to be a little low key about it because everybody's
Right.
still down because we lost the playoff game.
Right.
So, and then I don't think anybody else got called up that day. So I was juiced.
Yeah. Just inside you were really hyped, but you were trying to stay calm because you guys had just come off of a loss.
Absolutely, man. Like that's how I felt. I was ready to just go scream and yell
Yeah,
and get pumped up. Like even I remember even in my hotel room, I had my best friend Jermaine Curtis. He had been called up the year before, so I was still even like tiptoeing on eggshells, like trying not to be super juiced because I knew he may
right.
not get that opportunity. So
Yeah,
that's the tough thing about the minor leagues too is like you're always grinding to get up there, but then not everybody gets the opportunity, you know?
yeah, right. So you hear a lot of different players have different takes on this opinion and topic. Would you say it was harder to get to the major leagues, or do you think it was harder to stay in the major leagues? You know, you hear a lot of people say some players would say it would be harder to get there, but some players that jump really from AAA to the majors and back down to AAA would say it was harder to stay in the major leagues. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, personally, both are easily as tough,
Yeah,
equally as tough. So I feel like, you know, like I said earlier, grinding the minor leagues to get to where I needed to be, that was 7 years for me. So I can't say that that was
yeah,
easier by any means than actually,
right.
staying in the big leagues. So I think both are going to be equally as tough. I don't know necessarily what the numbers look like. So I'm sure it's definitely tough to, as far as numbers go, to stay there. But when you look at it from both perspectives, it's going to be tough either way.
Yeah. And what did your pregame routine look like before, an MLB game? And did you have any crazy superstitions that you would do before each game or after each game to, try to stay consistent?
Yeah, yeah. Pre-game routine, man. I'm a big breakfast guy. So like first thing in the morning, I gotta go get breakfast. Like it doesn't matter where it is. I tried to like look on Yelp and see some of the best breakfast spots every city that I was in, even in the minor leagues. But like me and my wife, we always had to find a breakfast spot, even if it's like 1 p.m. Like
Yeah,
you get in late the day before, and it's
right,
still you sleep in, and you get up at like 12. You gotta go get something to eat at 1 p.m. I gotta get some brunch, some breakfast. So
right.
that was huge for me. And then just getting to the field. Before the game, I was somebody that always needed to be like by myself at some point. I love chopping it up with the boys in the dugout
Yeah,
or in the clubhouse, joking around and stuff. But at some point, like before the game, I need about 10, 15 minutes to
right.
just like be in my own head and
Yeah,
just like talk positivity to myself, or visualize what I need to be doing. So I would try to go, even if it was like a storage room or something in the stadium, like I would go there, stretch, roll out, and just like listen to music and just think about like what I was going to do before the game. So that was something that I always did. And it was something that I felt kept me focused on, okay, no matter what happened the day before or what's going to happen tomorrow, let
yeah.
me lock into what I'm doing today. So that was huge for me.
Yeah, the mental side of things are definitely a huge thing, and in particular in the game of baseball. Maybe not, it's still big in other sports, but in baseball, it's really big because if you have an 0 for 4 day the day before, you can't hold on to that the next day, or else it's just going to drag out throughout the season. So,
Absolutely, absolutely, man. And that's what I try to, that's what I try to tell young athletes all the time
yeah,
and tell, people that I've played with and people that still want advice is like, hey, you can't hold on to what happened the day before. You can't hold on to what happened the week before because
yeah,
baseball, it'll humble you really quick.
right,
So at the same time, though, I learned from a good friend of mine who's plays for the Padres, Tommy Pham, is like when you have an opportunity to treat yourself for doing well, or maybe you got to a certain goal, or maybe you hit a home run, take advantage of treating yourself because you deserve that as well. So I
yeah.
think it works on both aspects.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with you there. And now let's transition into talking a little bit about your KBO experience. You went from playing professionally here in the USA to playing professionally over in Korea. So how would you say, you handled that transition, and what was that transition like? And how did you notice any drastic changes in the gameplay of, the two different countries?
Yeah, man. At first, it was crazy going over to Korea, man. I didn't expect to go over there. I thought about maybe Japan at one point, but I
Okay.
didn't see Korea at all. I knew nothing about South Korea. So I had to do my research and figure out, okay, what is this country even like?
Yeah.
So the transition wasn't easy whatsoever. And I went over there by myself. Without my wife for the first couple of weeks. So it was like I got dropped in a new place on the other side of the world 12-hour difference. I'm looking around like, what is going? Where am I? I
Yeah.
was confused.
Yeah.
And then I had the jet lag for like a first week and a half. So we would have games. We would have like 1 o'clock games, practice games, scrimmages, whatever. And I
Right.
would be falling asleep like 1 o'clock. I would be like dead tired, like
Yeah.
eyes closing. So it was a transition, man. And another transition was that like our alphabet is totally different than theirs. Like, so I
Okay.
couldn't read anything. They
Yeah.
have just straight characters. So I had no idea what any sign said, where I'm going to go eat. So I had to lean on my translator to tell me, like, I was like a little kid, like, just like, hey, tell me what this says. Tell me what this says on the menu,
Yeah.
tell me what this sign says. So it was huge for me to have a translator like that. So that was another
Right.
transition that was really tough. But the baseball is baseball. I tell people all the time, like when you get to a certain level, you know what you're capable of doing no matter where it's at.
Yep.
I had played at the highest level, so it was like, okay, now's my time to actually stay with one team. I'm not going up and down from the minor leagues to the big leagues.
Right.
I know I have a squad. I know I have guys that I'm going to build something with. We're all going toward the same goal.
Exactly.
So that was the really cool part. As far as any big changes in the baseball play, nothing too big.
Okay.
The hitters over there are more dominant than the pitchers. So at the same time, you have amazing athletes over there, just like over here. But those athletes a lot of times turn into some of the best hitters. So
Yeah.
some of the best pitchers kind of get neglected, and that's why their pitching level isn't the same as what it could be over here.
Yeah.
Um, so as a hitter, I had to take advantage of that. You make sure that you whatever pitcher you're facing, you're locked in that day and you're ready to do damage. So that was cool, and it really built me to be a better player as well. I faced different pitchers, a lot of submarine guys that had like 5, 6 different pitches. So I had to get adjusted to that as well, and it was all fun. And like I said, it built me as a player.
Yeah, and you mentioned you're a big food guy a bit earlier in this interview. What would you say your favorite meal was out there in Korea?
Yeah, favorite meal out there, Korea has to be the Korean barbecue, man. Even though it's
Okay.
something that you can get here, it's just that much more special over there. So it's
Okay.
it's really, I'm a big beef guy, love red meat. Probably should eat more than I should, but I love it. And also some of the other stuff, I love their dumplings over there. Trying to think what else I love over there. Oh, all their ramen, amazing. Noodles, amazing. Man, that's something I did. I ate over there. I
Yeah.
gained probably like a good 10, 15 pounds when I
Oh,
first got
really?
over. Yeah.
Okay, and you mentioned submarine pitchers. That's obviously a huge adjustment as far as the hitting aspect of things go. How long would you say took you to really adjust to that new aspect of things compared to where here in the MLB you wouldn't see as many submarine pitches as you do out there in Korea? How long did it take you to get adjusted to that?
Yeah, man, it took me a couple of weeks at least, and then all the pitchers were new to me. I had never faced any of the pitchers, so I had to do my homework. I had to go online and check out what I could and see their stats, see how they pitch certain guys.
Yeah.
So that was one of the toughest things. Is like I had never seen any of those guys before, and I see relievers now having 5, 6 different pitches. When in the MLB or back here in the States, you got 1 or 2 dominant
Right.
pitches as a reliever. So
Yeah.
that was an adjustment too. But at the same time, I knew that like what I was capable of doing. So I didn't try to overthink too much, and
Yeah.
just keep it
Right.
simple, get a pitch over a certain part of the plate,
Yeah.
and just do what I know I could do.
Yeah. Which would you say had more overall skill set? Would you say the MLB or the KBO had more overall skill set, or was it about even?
No, definitely the MLB. Definitely better
Okay.
skill set as far as the MLB goes, especially defensively, pitching wise. You're gonna get the better skills there, and yeah, the best baseball on the world is in the U.S. for sure. And
Okay.
I can attest to that because I've played in Colombia, I played
Yeah.
in Mexico, I
Yep.
played in Dominican, so I've been to all these different places.
Yeah. And now let's kind of turn it to more of the recent times. You're doing a lot of things outside of the lines, but still, correlated to baseball as far as the media side of things go. Let's kick it off with talking about your company, Extraordinary Athletes. For the viewers who don't know, tell them a little bit about what that is and, how you initially got that started up.
Yeah, and Extraordinary Athletes was something I started last December, just trying to figure out a way to kind of give back to my community in San Diego, where I was, where I grew up, And
Yeah.
it started with the camp. It wasn't anything super special. It was actually it was special, but it wasn't anything like I wasn't thinking business wise. I was thinking, okay, let's give back, and did a nice camp where the major league players competed alongside with the young youth athletes. We all took ground balls together. We hit together. We ran bases. Like, so it wasn't just instructional, like, hey,
Yeah.
you guys do this. Let's teach you how to do it. You go do it. No, we'll do it all together. And
Right.
then we competed at it too. So it was like, try to figure out who's the best at what, and
Yeah.
then the young players could see where they stack up against a major leaguer. So that was really cool for me. But that was just like the beginning of, okay, let's build something bigger for athletes to understand, okay, this is what it takes on the field, but also this is what it takes off the field. So I wanted to develop a program, an environment, especially here in
Okay.
Tampa, attached to a facility, athletic facility where, okay, now let's take that mental part of the game and transfer it to young athletes so they can understand, okay, this is what it takes, and I'm learning it from major league players. I'm learning it
Right.
from people in the sports industry, weight and
Yeah.
conditioning coaches, all different types of people, and turn that into a program, turn it into something that they can tangibly do and enjoy. So that was something that kind of took that next step. And as far as now, I've been able to take it and do a podcast with it,
Yeah.
so I can kind of develop more of that tangible feeling to where athletes can hear, okay, this is coming straight from so and so's mouth. This is straight from a Tommy Pham's mouth, straight from a Randall Grichuk's mouth, straight from a David Price. Like,
Right.
that's what I feel like athletes need most, especially the young athletes, because a lot of times we just see the highlights of what's going
Yeah.
on, but let's
Right.
bring back the curtain and see what goes in
Yep.
behind the game.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's important.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Congrats on that. That's obviously it's an awesome concept that you came up with, and it's obviously going well thus far. And there's definitely more accolades to come along with that. But you're also doing stuff with ESPN, with KBO, obviously, as well as Prospect Dugout. How did you kind of get into that type of stuff, and how did you get your foot into the door with that type of stuff?
Yeah, well, I realized with Prospect Dugout that was going to be a great platform for me to be able
Yeah.
to, promote what I was trying to do with young athletes,
Right.
especially a way to stay in the realm of baseball as well, because what they're doing is some of the top content in the game right now.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's really big for them, and them being an application as well for athletes to use it is huge. So I wanted to try to align myself with companies or businesses like that
Yeah.
are really trying to do something that is really passionate, but really at the same time serving the young athlete.
Yeah.
So that's where I started that relationship. And we have a show every Tuesday called X
Okay.
Factor, where we dive into more of the mindset, the more of the behind the scenes of what it takes for a young athlete. And then the ESPN KBO thing has been something cool because, like we talked about, I played there, so I got to experience what it's like over there, and I
Right.
can give firsthand knowledge and analytics of like what I see on the field. So that's been really cool for me as well. That kind of came out of nowhere. An older agent of mine that I spoke to said he thought I'd be perfect for an opportunity like that. So I've tried to take advantage and just enjoy it. I love the communications broadcasting side of sports. So it's been a lot of fun to get into that.
Yeah, and you've obviously played in front of tens and thousands of fans, but that's not really similar to talking. That's not similar to the talking side of things. Would you ever get nervous before going on set for ESPN?
Yeah, definitely get nervous, get those good goosebumps because you never know, you never know, you might slip up and say the
Yeah,
wrong thing, or
yeah,
maybe too many ums or ands and
yeah,
likes or whatever.
yep,
But it's been fun, man. And that's the thing is, like, once you start doing it more and more, like, you're doing the
right,
podcast, the more and more you do it, the more you
yeah,
get comfortable with it. And
yeah,
the more it just flows. So that's where I felt like I needed the most help. It's like, okay, maybe if I continue to be able to do some podcasts, some interviews, some
yeah.
ESPN stuff, then I'll start getting better at doing it. And it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from, and that's kind of a big reason for me starting now is because I kind of wanted to get my foot in the door early and kind of get that experience behind me before, when that time comes when I do get that opportunity, I'm 100% prepared for it, and I've been doing it for, so many years that I have the experience and I'm not as nervous or I'm more confident than I would have been if I didn't have this type of experience.
Absolutely, man. And I can tell you're already confident with it. And that's probably one of the biggest things. I spoke to Eduardo Perez a couple of weeks ago, and he was kind of breaking it down to me, and he was like, man, just be confident about what you're
Yeah,
talking about,
yeah,
because people can sense when you're not confident, people can
yeah,
sense when you doubt yourself.
right,
And one of the biggest things he told me was, don't even say I think about this situation. Like, no,
yeah,
like that's, you've been a part of it, you played the game, like
right.
these things, so just be confident in what you do. And that's something that I took away from him, and I'm sure that's something that can be helpful to you.
Yeah, most definitely, and that kind of correlates to the baseball side of things as well. Like, if you're not confident on the diamond and you're worried about making an error, or striking out looking, that's what's going to happen because you're too worried about it and you're overthinking it. And that kind of correlates to what we're doing now, or with what you're doing with the Extraordinary Podcast and ESPN and Prospect Dugout, or what I'm doing with these interviews and podcasts with Christian Bergman. If you're not confident with it, it's not going to flow well.
Absolutely. And I feel like that's one of the biggest things is like, you're going to make mistakes, just like
Right.
baseball. You're going to make errors. It's going to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
But you can't let that hold you back from being great, right?
Yeah.
You still got to go do what you do. And if you see yourself down the line being somewhere, just
Right.
keep shooting for it.
Yeah, for sure. And let's wrap it up with the quick rapid fire. And kicking it off for the rapid fire, favorite guest you've had on the Extraordinary Athletes podcast?
Man, that's a tough one, man, because I've had so many good ones. You put me on a spot. I'd have to say the last one I did, Tim Corbin, Vanderbilt's manager,
Yep.
baseball manager, something that was really special to me because he's been somebody that I've wanted to talk to for a while, and he gave
Yeah.
me the time. And he's somebody that doesn't do the podcast,
No.
doesn't do the Zoom, So for him to set aside some time to talk to me, that was huge for me.
What was your biggest takeaway from that podcast appearance?
Yeah, the biggest takeaway was easily something that he said in the very beginning, and it is something about rehearsing victory. This is what athletes I feel like need to do. Just people in general is like rehearse the fact that you see yourself being the best you can be.
Right.
Don't worry about so much of the distractions. Everything is not going to happen the way you want it to happen. But at the
Yeah.
same time, see it in your mind happening, and it makes it easier to strive after.
Yeah, and we've talked about this previously, and it shows on your Instagram. You're big into food, like I mentioned. What is your favorite meal?
My favorite meal. My mom, she doesn't really make it for me too much anymore. I try to get her to make it for me when she comes to the crib, but she does a fried chicken with cornbread
Okay.
and and some yams, man. That's what I'll take every day. It's not the best food for you, but obviously you got to get that soul food
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Biggest piece of advice you could give to a young developing baseball player?
Yeah, the biggest piece of advice, I get this one a lot. So I feel like it's just ask questions, man.
Yeah.
Like you don't know everything. I don't know everything. Like I've been through this game so much, but you think you know everything sometimes, but you don't. So just
Yeah.
ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Always be willing to learn more and more, whether that be diving in a book, whether that be going on YouTube and learning about something,
Right.
just be willing to ask questions and learn as much as possible.
And to wrap it up, most memorable baseball moment.
Most memorable baseball moment. That's an easy one for me. First home run with the Miami Marlins, 2016, facing Chad Kuhl in Pittsburgh. I hit a bomb. Now coming around first base, I just feel like I'm just on clouds, man. I didn't even feel myself running. I come around third. I dap up Lenny Harris, the
Yep.
all-time pinch hit leader. I come home. Ichiro's waiting for me to give me high five. I'm like, man, Ichiro, no, this can't be real, man.
Right.
I go in the dugout, dap up Don Mattingly. Then Barry Bonds is waiting to give me a hug. Like that's just unreal type stuff. So it was easily the best moment I've ever been a part of.
You remember it like it was yesterday. That's awesome.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Well, that wraps up everything I have for you, Xavier. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to make this happen. It really means a lot. I love what you're doing right now. There's definitely more accolades to come down the line as well, and we'll keep in touch.
Definitely, man. Thank you for having me on here, Nathan. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you, Xavier. If you guys haven't already, make sure you guys go check out LeftySwag Bats. I promise it'll be super beneficial to all of you. The link to both their Instagram as well as their online shop will be in the description box below. They have amazing products such as baseball bats to improve your bat speed as well as your visual skills. Not only that, but they also have a ton of dope apparel, including these dope hats, as well as some other miscellaneous baseball accessories to improve your game. Once again, that's LeftySwag Bats. The link to both their Instagram as well as their online shop will be in the description box below.